Firstly, Dani Khan. She is a double World Junior track cycling champion and multiple European and British champion. She's currently racing with Lotto Soudal. Welcome, Dani. Are you there? Are you with us?
Hi.
Hiya.
Hi.
Okay. Oh. And next we have Marie-Divine Kouamé Taky. Now, she is the World Junior 500 meters track sprint time trial champion of 2019. And she speaks with us from Paris, France, with the assistance of my interpreter, Nausicaa. Bonjour, Marie.
Hi.
Oh, hiya. Great to see you. Great to see you.
Okay, I try to put my camera on.
Let's see if you can put your camera on for us so we can see you.
Okay, I can't because you have to put my camera on.
Okay, I'm gonna help you to do that in a moment. Okay. Right, that's going to help you now, hopefully. Technology is brilliant. Hiya!
Hi.
There you are. Hey. This is great. I love it. I love this. This is brilliant. Okay, nice to meet you. It's fantastic that you're here, and it's brilliant that you're going to be sharing your experiences with Dani. Next, we have Charlotte Cole-Hossain, a double British cycling champion of the Velo Club de Londres, London. Welcome, Charlotte. Are you there?
Hi. Yeah.
Perfect. There you go. Brilliant, Charlotte. And finally, we have Rhianna Paris-Smith. She's a hugely talented rising star of track sprint who is currently racing a Team Terminator. Hi, Rhianna. Are you there?
I'm Marlon. Good evening, everyone.
Oh, perfect. There you are. Great. Here we are. And let me just... Here I am as well. Okay. Hey. And we have Nausicaa there as well. Brilliant. Wow. Hiya. Hi, everybody.
I can't see Rhianna.
Sorry, Dani?
I can't see Rhianna for some reason.
Oh.
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
I can't see myself, but I can see Rhianna now, so that's a bonus.
Well, I mean, isn't this the first time you've used Zoom, Dani?
It is. Can you believe that? Especially in the last year, it is the first time I am on Zoom.
I think you might want to go, I think I'm not sure where it will be, but if you click gallery view, you will be able to see everyone all at once instead of just the person talking.
Oh yes, I've got everybody and I've got a little arrow so I can scroll up and down, and I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Well, say hello to everybody. Hiya, Marie, Charlotte.
Hi.
Hey everybody.
Hey, look, this is so unique. It's so exciting. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever put together such a fantastic panel as this. Champion cyclists, young, powerful women, and I'm the lucky one to have done so. I'm God blessed in that respect. Welcome to this discussion. It's a fantastic time to be talking about women in cycling. There's a lot of things going on over the last couple of weeks or so in the media about women's voices in the sport. But particularly for me, I'm really interested to understand about, as I said, BAME, women's experiences in the sport from grassroots to elite international level. And here I have two world champions, a double national champion and an aspirant racing cyclist looking to become a champion as well. I think let me just double check that everybody can see this screen for a second before I go on. Let me see. I'll make sure that everyone can see. Should be able to see everything. Yeah. So Let me just ask you first of all about how you got into the sport. Let me just ask you how you got into the sport. So maybe I can start with you. Danny. How did you get into it? How did you get into cycling?
So for me, my cycling journey actually began through doing another sport. So I was a short track speed skater from the age of 8, and I worked my way up to competing for Great Britain and trained with the national team at the National Ice Centre in Nottingham. And when I was 14 years old, I couldn't do the off-ice training. The short track speed skaters do a lot of running, plyometric, jumping based work to help aid their on-ice work due to having Osgood slatters, which is quite a common problem that most children at that sort of age experience due to doing a lot of sport. And basically what happens is you're growing at such a rate that your muscles can't keep up, essentially, and then it starts to pull on tendons, you get sore knees. So that's where a bike was a perfect tool, which my dad got for me. Didn't really have any idea how to work the gears. I was an amateur, basically. He took me to the local park, which we happened to discover a cycling circuit built specifically for cycling. So again, that was just a fluke. We didn't have no idea it was there. It was 2 miles from my house. It backed right behind my school. We didn't know it was there. And another fluke was that Solihull Cycling Club were there doing a session. So me and my dad rocked up. And they invited us to join the following Tuesday. And it was from there, really, that they discovered I had a lot of horsepower, but kind of didn't really know anything about cycling, how to use the bike. And that's where they introduced me to a whole range of disciplines and opened my eyes, really. But it was the track that I got hooked to straight away. And I used a club track bike and did a lot of the DHL sprint schools and RSRs, so the regional school of racing run by British Cycling. And that's how I really got a taste for the track. And from there, really, that's how my story began. Never looked back.
What a fantastic story. And you had a cycling track which was close to where you lived, and you were able to join that club without any issues, no problems. You were warmly welcomed.
Yeah, very warmly welcome. 500 plus members at the time, which again wasn't to my knowledge until you kind of happen to discover the coaches and they inform you with that. So it really opened my eyes, because other than watching the London 2012 Olympic Games, I really didn't know much at all about cycling.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant introduction, and it's a nice transition. And talking about RSRs and having a local club that was quite close to where you lived, Charlotte, how did you get into it? Is there any sense of resemblance with Danny's story in your story?
Yeah, really similar. I mean, mine wasn't accidental. My dad cycled a lot when he was younger. He competed in cycling before his kids got in the way. And then he took us down to the velodrome a couple of times when we were really young. So I was about 8 years old, I believe, when I first rode at Herne Hill, which is my local velodrome. And so, and after that, we just kind of started making it our weekly thing. It's interesting that I didn't know you were a short track skater, though, because I very much dabbled in ice skating when I was young. There's an ice rink really, really close to us. So I used to go on Sundays, and I used to really, really enjoy it. And I remember when I first had to kind of choose between what I was going to do on a Sunday, whether I was going to continue doing ice skating at a very low level. I mean, honestly, it was just like an open public session, or go to the track. So yeah, very similar way, local velodrome, welcoming club that I joined almost as soon as, after a couple of sessions there.
Yeah, so again, a welcoming club, and you had the opportunity to do some ice skating like Danny, but you stuck with cycling, and you had your father involved in getting you into the sport with a friendly club, the VCL. I wonder, Marie, did you have any influence from your father in coming into cycling?
It's a little bit different because on my family, nobody do cycling. I start when I was 4 years old. I start at the club of my city. At the beginning, it was just for game. It was really fun with my friends. Every Wednesday, we have training, but it was really fun at the beginning. Year after year, I continue. I progress. I know the track when I was 12 years old, and it was just like, je sais pas comment on dit baptême.
Baptism.
Yes.
Christening. I don't know. Christening?
Yes.
Baptism.
Yes.
Baptism. Christening.
Just for know the track and know how to ride on the track. When I was 12 years old, I had
like an induction.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I had incredible experience in this sport, and yes, it was crazy. I could never have imagined all this when I started cycling at 4 years old.
Yeah, it sounds like the three of you have had a joyous introduction into cycling with clubs and going to the track. And I just want to ask you a question, Marie. So I've read a bit about you. So did you go to a cycling school?
No.
No. Okay. I must have read the wrong thing. No. Okay. I thought that in some parts of France that there were certain schools that had different associations with different sports, because always I thought that was a case, but no. Okay. But talking about that, Rhianna, how did you get into the sport of cycling? Was it similar to Danny, Charlotte, Marie, or
probably take a bit from all three, to be honest. I always used to go on my bike when I was little. My dad always used to cycle. We always cycle on the cycle. And I did it more as a hobby, and aesthetics was my thing. So I used to be a sprinter on a different track, on a running track, on a red track. I loved that when I was a little kid. Really good atmosphere, good community, great coach. And I never was quick enough basically to make it on the big league. So I was looking at colleges once I finished school. Didn't know what I wanted to do, and I came across a college, Oakland College, which did cycling academy alongside education. So I just thought, we all just thought, oh, I'll just go. There's a trial. We went for the open evening, and Jez, the guy who ran it, was like interested. So I came for a trial. He basically just took me under his wing because I just found out what clips were, and didn't know there was a difference between junior and senior gear. So Jez took me under his wing, and he sort of showed me a bit about the sport, and then I got into it that way. And then I got onto the track. I did my track accreditation when I was 15 or 16 at Derby. And then it sort of went off from there, really.
Wow. So that's the Oakland's Cycling Academy, Rhianna.
Yeah.
And whereabouts is that?
That is in St Albans in Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire, yeah. Sounds like a fantastic opportunity for young people to sort of go and do their studies and do the sport that they love as well.
Definitely.
Okay. Let me ask you a question that you can all respond to. Well, two questions really. First question is for young females coming into the sport of cycling, is it a dad and daughter thing?
J'ai pas compris la question.
La question, est-ce que c'est un rapport père-fille qui vous a conduit à votre profession aujourd'hui?
Ok.
Is it the passion of your father that's driving this, or are you pushing it yourself, or whatever? What do you think?
For me, it's
I would say
okay. Go.
Charlotte, what do you say?
sorry. I would say you know, as with anything, you probably can't you can't have use like a blanket statement like that. It happens to be the case. I think that a lot of people who get, because it's kind of as well, most of us touched on, it's quite a difficult sport to get into. You sort of have to stumble upon it, or you'll get into it through your someone who introduces you to it. A lot of people who got into cycling, and like maybe the majority of cyclists I know, it's from their parents were cycling, and because more men do sport than women, especially 20-30 years ago, it tends to be the case that a lot of girls who come into cycling will have come into cycling through their fathers, but it's obviously not always the case. And I think you know, in the future will be less so, as long as we do our job in promoting cycling.
Sure. Marie, did you want to say about your father and his influence in cycling, or non-influence?
Not cycling particularly, because my father loves the sport in general. So when I was young, I started by cycling, but I try a lot of sport like football, etc. And he always encouragé.
Motivated you, pushed you.
Yes, push me for do sport, and I was strong at cycling, so he pushed me to do cycling.
Okay. Let me go to the next question, and maybe I'll start with Danny and then Rhianna. So, in terms of you going to these spaces to do cycling with your BAME heritage, did you see any other faces like yours in these spaces? And if so, what was it like? And if not, you know, did you have any feelings about that at the time? Danny?
I mean, I didn't, obviously. I was at a young age, 14, so you don't tend to pay attention to issues, should I say, such as that. For me, it was just about learning to ride a bike and focusing on that perspective, really. So nothing entered my mind from that, and I just got stuck in. I was very welcomed. Everyone was so friendly and helpful, and yeah, I kind of owe a lot back to the club, really, because I don't think I'd probably be sitting here today if it weren't for them being so welcoming, and also obviously my dad being brilliant support. So
brilliant. Rhianna, same question.
Yeah, different Spammy. This is definitely a different experience. It was sort of, I will never forget, I went to sort of the first sort of club experience, and it was in a field, and we were driving up this sort of this like path to get out there, and me and my dad drove in, and everyone just sort of stared at me and think, oh, they lost, or, you know, it was a bit like, oh, Dad, why is everyone looking at us? Like, he's like, yeah, just like, you just need to understand. And I was like, okay. And then yeah, it was just very, very much a surprise, I think, for them. Well, I'll say that.
Yeah. So there was a sense of hyper visibility that you felt eyes were on you in that respect. Okay.
Definitely.
Charlotte, Marie, did you have any sense of your ethnic heritage when you walked into those spaces, or were you like Danny? Were you like Rhianna? Charlotte?
Well, you know, again, lucky enough that at Herne Hill it's relatively diverse as well. So, and obviously when I was 8 years old, I wasn't really paying attention to that. But as you grow up and you start going to kind of the national level races, you do kind of, there does come a point when you notice that I can't ever tell if people looked at me because I had, you know, slightly darker skin, or because I normally like wear weird stuff. So it's hard to tell on that side. But you do kind of notice that there's not many other people who look like you. Danny's a couple of years older than me, so I always knew her as being, you know, That's quite cool. And there's a couple of people at my age as well who were also non-white. So it didn't feel completely isolating, and I didn't feel like I was, picked on really by my peers at least. But you do kind of notice, I think, once you get old enough, you notice that this, especially growing up in London, you notice that when I go to these races, these national level races, it doesn't look like the demographic of when I walk around, Streatham or anywhere in London, really. So.
Okay. So I'll come to Marie in a moment, but just to go back on what you and Danny said, like that it was, you certainly for you, Charlotte, you said that there was some possible, there was a possible sense of seeing your ethnic identity through the eyes of some people in that respect. And but for Rhianna, I was going to ask whether was there any sense of was there a support system in place for you to support you through that sense of hypervisibility that you were speaking of?
Through my family and my support network, because obviously my parents were probably my first in line. Others, it might be their grandparents that aren't even uncles, but definitely for my parents, we did speak out a bit, and it sort of realised, because obviously you came from athletics where it's probably opposite, and then I came into cycling and I was like, whoa. So it soon realised that it was just the norm, that there wasn't really many people who looked like you.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting thing there. And Marie, what about your experience? Did you have any sense of being more visible than others in the sport when you first came to a club?
La question, c'est quoi la question?
C'est par rapport à ta place de... est-ce que c'est plutôt un monde d'hommes blancs? Est-ce qu'il y a une prise de conscience? Est-ce que tu t'es trouvé vis-à-vis de ton héritage à contre-pied des autres?
Okay. My club is in French we say street, but en anglais, on dit street, on dit quartier. Je veux dire quartier. C'est dans
oui, it's a local one. It's a local.
Yeah. So when I started cycling with my friend was black, and when we go at the competition, we can saw the difference. My club was really many white people, black people,
cultural,
Indian.
Yeah.
But the other club, il y avait pas tout ce mélange. Et c'est vrai qu'on a vu la différence entre les autres clubs et mon club.
Yes, so there was definitely a diversity within her club.
Yeah.
Whenever she went to compete, there was an awareness that it was not the norm, that other clubs were mainly dominated by white.
No, brilliant. No, that's a real fantastic insight, because what you're saying is that with a multicultural club, there's obviously an education of perhaps a greater understanding of ethnic diversity. But when your club moves away from that particular location to a different part of the country, and it's perhaps more monocultural, that's where those differences may be exposed more. And that's something that can definitely learn from, especially in the UK as well, where we have in London, Birmingham, Glasgow, where there might be more multicultural than other spaces around the country. How do we enable people to be appreciative of the fact that they might find themselves living in a bubble, and there's a bigger world outside of different sorts of people with different ethnic backgrounds? So that's some brilliant insights from everybody there. Thanks very much for that. But I kind of realised as well that this is the first time you guys have met, I think. I don't think you've met before. Have you got any questions for each other? Maybe, Danny, do you want to ask anybody any questions about their cycling and, their successes and the highs and lows of being a young woman in the sport? Danny?
Well, my question was for Charlotte, and it was actually, a topic that is quite important, but a bit off topic for what we've just been chatting about. It's about food. So I always find it really interesting with fueling strategies. Obviously, Science in Sport are sponsoring this, which obviously you would use pre, during, post race for recovery. But in terms of what would you have leading up to a big race, Charlotte, the week before, a few days before, the day before, compared to what would you indulge on as like a cheat meal? I mean, I know this is totally different to what we've been talking about, but I find it really interesting what people have to say about this. So,
well, this has got to be going back quite a while now because I haven't raced for quite some time. But well, you know, I did my last couple of seasons as a vegetarian, so it's obviously trickier. You know, you want to make sure you get in the right amount of protein, etc. Almost, and I will say I wasn't as good with nutrition as lots of other people because I kind of
such a big.
I wasn't so good at taking anything seriously. But that's not to say that I just eat trash, but it would mean that I just kind of I wouldn't go the other way and eat only like bulgur wheat forever. So the go-to would be pasta. I really struggle to eat lots on race day. You think you get those nerves and that just make you not want to, even at breakfast, don't want to eat very much. So it'd be like a coffee, definitely, maybe two, maybe some cereal or something. But during racing is when I have the most kind of specific desires or the most specific routine or whatever. I can't remember. You know, those little banana serene bars.
Oh yes,
bunch of them in my back pocket. Definitely, and I'm not just saying this. Definitely an SIS orange gel. SIS is the best brand of gel. Yeah, for sure. And I think that they're more substantial, like bigger than a lot of the other gels. Sometimes I have a gel and I think this isn't going to get me very far. And then I would just have kind of like I never really did energy drinks or anything. And then after the race is basically whatever I fancy, because by then it's time to have fun a bit. But the interesting thing is, and I don't know if other people have this, that I never had cravings for like bad food after I race. I feel like you feel kind of, you know, you feel like adrenaline-y and like kind of healthy, and I always have a craving for like something relatively clean. I never really have a craving to indulge. So that's pretty much.
Oh, that was interesting. Funny you should say about cravings actually, because whenever I finish a race, I crave salt and vinegar crisps. I don't know whether it's because I'm a heavy sweater, not to be too graphic, but I must use a lot of salt because I just have this like craving that I've got to eat salt and vinegar crisps. So before anything else.
Charlotte, did you have a question for anyone in this group that you've not met before, that you might just curious to know about their lifestyles and cycling? Salt and vinegar crisps. That's an interesting one, Danny. Charlotte, have you got a question for anyone?
Marie-Divine. Can I ask how I should pronounce your name?
Yes.
How do you pronounce your name?
Marie-Divine, but Marie-Divine, it's good too.
Okay, because I want to. Okay, so Marie-Divine.
Marie-Divine.
Okay. So, well, my question is kind of a bit more heavy, I suppose. So when I look at the most non-white riders especially the men's peloton, the men's professional peloton, and even in men's and track cycling as well, a lot of the black riders and non-white riders come from France. I know that's because there's a lot of there's quite a diverse country of the European countries, but the UK is also a very diverse country, but we don't have very many, if any, high-level black riders. And I'm wondering whether there is something that is done in France, that whether the Cycling Federation or the support system at a lower level all the way up to elite level is better in France, whether the there's a whether it's what the reason for it being more diverse. where that comes from, if you think there's anything that France does particularly well in that respect.
I think it's because in French we have a lot of origin, and les encadrants, ceux qui s'occupent d'encadrer notre sport, ils vont dans les quartiers pour pouvoir aller chercher des jeunes qui peuvent faire du sport. Et la plupart des jeunes qui ont envie de faire du sport, ils sont noirs.
D'accord. Okay, so basically there's some kind of culture where people who want to find the new champions actively go into areas with a lot of diversity, and because they know the people who seem to be more passionate about sports are usually not the white children, and they go where they know they'll find the passion, and it's usually in areas which are represented by more diverse cultures than the average middle-class white background. So yes, there is definitely a positive and active support network. So that Marie's not told me exactly which support, but people who are looking for the next champions go actively find these people.
It's really interesting, because I remember after France won the World Cup, I watched a video about how the French national team, or from a young age, they recruit players from, I think, just the outskirts of France. They have a lot of football clubs around there. So I didn't know they were doing a sort of similar thing for cycling. That sounds really good. I hope British cycling are listening.
Yeah.
I think they are, Charlotte. I think they are indeed. And, so scouting. I think I'm just going to mention one. I'm going to mention somebody, a guy called Christian Light, who became 3 times World Junior champion. Danny might know who he is actually, because if we were around during your time, and he actually was scouted, and I think there were some British cycling coaches that went around to his school, and he did a power test, and he came out really well, and then he got into the talent team. He won quite a few national medals, and he became the World Junior champion because of that system that is occurring in France. I'm not sure the extent that occurs in around the country today. I don't think it's as active as it was, but it seems to be working really well in France. Good question. Good question. Rhianna, did you have a question for anyone? Or yeah, go for it.
I've got a question for Danny. So I was just wondering, how easy did you find it to access information about track cycling? Because obviously we all know it's a very niche and specialised sport, which is incredibly hard to get into. So yeah. Yeah,
that's a very good question, actually, because other than watching the London 2012 games, I knew nothing about it. And as I'd already mentioned about stumbling across Solihull Cycling Club, if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have had a clue how to get into cycling. I wouldn't have known the closest velodrome or anything like that. And it was only for them giving me a club track bike to use and giving me dates of DHL sprint schools and RSRs that British Cycling ran for how I got into it, really. So yeah, I definitely think more awareness could be made, and information on how accessible getting into sports such as track cycling. I mean, cycling is such a known sport. If you say to anyone, you know what cycling is compared to short track speed skating, they'll go, oh yeah, of course, riding a bike. But then if you ask them, where's your closest velodrome or cycling track that's, you know, closed roads in a safe environment to ride your bike, they probably wouldn't be able to answer that. So I definitely think that whether something's done, you know, in schools, for instance, I mean, most school children are introduced to athletics, running, netball, swimming, even with school sports. But cycling's never in there. And I mean, I know financially it might be more of a burden having to pay for bikes and equipment, but is that something that could be done? So it introduces children of that age where they're likely to really get a passion and liking for something, and could potentially, discover that they are the next champion, if you like. So maybe that's something that could be looked into. And yeah, as I say, I didn't even know my cycle track, which was a really safe environment to learn to ride a bike, which I did, was 2 miles from my house and 1 mile from my school. So very good question.
Yeah, great question. It's about being aware of what the facilities are around in the neighbourhood, and also having that conduit, that person from that particular club going to the schools, and becoming a familiar, friendly face with the children at the school and the teachers there, so that they come over. And it's a point made by Edward Ward in the chat as well. Clubs also need to develop and support youth sections. This is often a challenge for clubs, and Lee Valley Park could also do more to support involvement. I'm going to go to Marie. Marie, did you have any particular question for either Danny, Charlotte, or Rhianna? Did you have a question that you want just to get to know more about each other?
I have just a question for all of you. Est-ce que vous avez déjà vécu le racisme dans le vélo, si vous avez déjà été insulté ou quelque chose comme ça?
Have you ever experienced some kind of discrimination or racism, whilst in a competition or just training? Or yes.
Okay, we'd like to go with that one. Any indirect or direct forms of racial discrimination in your racing careers, and how have you dealt with that? Danny, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first because I haven't got a massive answer. I mean, I've never experienced any discrimination. However, the only point I've kind of felt is my last name is Khan. And I feel that a lot of people, they're not scared, but they're kind of intrigued and they shy away from asking about it. And to me, it's just, that's my name. So ask away. And I know a lot of people, like, I don't know, I kind of had a sense that they'd be talking about that. Like, why is her last name Khan? It is a Pakistani name, and that's where my mixed heritage comes from. So yeah, that's the only point I have for that question.
Sense of curiosity
around
you,
but no discrimination or anything like that, but just an intrigue really. And I have had a few coaches come up in the past and kind of say, can I ask why your last name is Khan? And it's they feel a bit almost uncomfy, but it's nothing to me, it's my name. So
good response. Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a really good question because a lot of the time, I think if you've done most of your cycling career when you're quite young, which is, I think, the case for most of us because we're all quite young still. Well, I'm holding on to that. Then there are a lot of things that you might kind of dismiss at the time. I mean, it's obvious if someone hurls a racial slur at you, you know that that's racism, but there are some more subtle things. So, and I tell this story a lot, so I won't go into too much detail. But when I raced in the Netherlands for the first time, and I was only 12 years old, I was the British champion at the time on the road. So I had the jersey with the stripes on, so I was quite identifiable, but I was also quite tall, and I think I talked a bit too much in the bunch for most people's liking. And there was a weird rumor that went around, and someone complained to the commissaires at the end of one of the stages, or not someone, 8 girls had told the commissaires that I pulled their hair during the race, which I think is such a strange and absurd lie. But obviously, if 8 people complain about it, it really makes it seem like it was true. So I had to have a conversation with the commissaire, and eventually, she watched the final stage at the top of the car and determined that there was no problem when I was racing. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I don't know why they didn't like me, but I I wouldn't be surprised if it's because of the way I looked. And again, that same race, someone in my club did have a racial slur was shouted at him by someone in the race, just one person in the race who was told off about it. But so yeah, you kind of come into contact with things and you question yourself about certain incidents as well, which makes it difficult. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Charlotte. You've shared that with me before, and it shows you that you can be targeted. Rhianna, any responses to Marie's question? Just
similar to Charlotte, you never really know, to be fair, unless obviously someone says it straight out loud. I'll never forget at senior nationals in January, my parents came and told me they got refused not refused because they just went up the stairs in the end, but the officials and some people there didn't believe that they were spectating. They said, no, we're spectators. My daughter's race. I went, no, not here, not you. You need to go back downstairs. And I thought, oh God, no. So they just said no. We just ended up going upstairs. But yeah, no direct, but indirect possibly, yes. But you would just never know, really.
It seems that you've had an experience of being an interloper. Like you spoke about the first experience in terms of when you went to do cycling and that hypervisibility, and at the national championships, because of your identity, it's assumed that you're not an athlete. It's just not good enough, is it? And I've been writing a book. It's finished now, but there are some more experiences, not just in the current day. It's disgusting that this sort of attitudes occurring in the current day, but it's a historical thing, and hopefully my book will be able to share that this sort of attitude is something that needs to be wiped out, and there needs to be a lot of education. It's a great question, Marie. It's a fantastic question, and it brings me on to this. Go on, Charlotte. Yeah.
Can I ask if you've had what your experiences are?
Yes.
Yeah, Marie,
I was, I think, like 12 or 13 years old. I go on because it was the first time I left my region for a competition, and this competition reunited all the region of the France. And when I meet other children of des autres régions, on était deux noirs dans notre équipe.
So there were only 2 black within her team.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an inter-county competition.
And the other children ils nous ont dit, go eat your banana. And it was the first time que j'ai été confrontée au racisme.
Yeah, it was a first direct experience of it.
Avant ça, je me rendais même pas compte que j'étais noire, que j'étais différente des autres.
Yeah, and until that point, she'd never felt any difference. But it was this kind of like turning point where she experienced it as a shock, and it changed the way she was aware of her identity.
Mm.
It's actually, I think, it's really difficult in a different way when you experience it throughout your whole life and you're really aware of it being there. It kind of you become so used to it, but then if you're not used to it and it happens one time, it just completely catches you off guard. It's really difficult to deal with because you think I don't know how to react to this. It's so strange and alien because I don't expect it. Yeah.
Yeah, these are shocking stories, and they're horrible psychological memories to have to carry in doing something that you really love doing, but having that ugliness fester into your world and aiming to interfere with what you're doing is shocking. And there needs to be parents in the sport, coaches in the sport who know of this sort of behaviour need to be rooted out, and need to be educated because it can't happen. But I guess, Marie, you've let your legs do the talking. You've become the world champion, and so have you, Charlotte. And Rhianna, this is going to happen for you in the future. And same for you, Danny. You've let your legs do the talking. And I just want to show you a picture of another champion. And this, a couple of them actually. You've got Selena Alvarado from the Netherlands, and you've got Tennille Campbell. And they've come onto the scene as leading lights today. You know, the press, the cycling media give them quite a lot of attention. There's nobody out there on the track. I mean, most of us here are track cyclists. Both of these are outlier individuals. You know, so what else can be done to I'm not going to ask you to, you know, what else can be done to sort of introduce more BAME cyclists to track cycling in the UK, so that they can become just as well known as these two, but also as successful as some of you in your sports as well. Who'd like to tackle that question? What more can be done? Who needs to be supporting and financing development at grassroots level?
I'm happy to go. I think, well, for starters, I think like national bodies definitely need to have a big help. But from my point of view, I came from athletics, and I think athletics and cycling can be very interchangeable. If you're a long distance runner, you're probably going to be an endurance athlete on the bike. If you're a sprinter, you can probably do sprinting on the bike. So I think definitely scouting at other sports, which you could sort of look into training cyclists maybe, and just actively scouting more, which we touched on earlier with how Marie's doing it in France.
It's a good response. So using sort of athletics as a model framework, and sort of taking that framework, almost a bit like the Great Britain athletics team. 50 years ago, they were probably all white athletes, weren't they? But now today, in 2021, it's very much a multicultural team. Cycling hasn't shifted. Cycling, you know, cycling as a national team was pretty much white in the 1960s. Is pretty much white today. So, good answer. Good answer. Charlotte, Danny, how are we going to produce more? How are we going to grow some BAME young female world champions in Great Britain? Danny, have you got any ideas on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a challenging topic, really. And as I've touched on before, an awareness at a school level, I think, would be, especially at secondary school level, where children are kind of 12 to 16 years, I think that's where you kind of decide if you're going to go into a career in sport, and whether something could be done that when athletes retire, they could go into like a training program to be a coach, and especially with females. I mean, personally, I think more female coaches would be brilliant. I know for a fact I would have liked to have had a female coach to have worked with throughout my years on the national team within the track environment as well. So whether that can be something done from grassroots right until the elite end. I mean, the UK, if you look, for example, we're really privileged to have all that financial support, whereas other countries, I mean, like most of Europe, they have great facilities and accessibility to facilities. So I think that there is definitely room for coaches, and that could also help with the scouting as well. They could be going around and looking at other sports, and kind of, yeah, just creating that awareness really, and showing that the opportunities are there, but it's just having the knowledge for that. But yeah, having more coaches, female coaches as role models as well, I think that would inspire people and encourage really, and not make people think it's it's cycling, we should just stick to athletics, or what is known, if you like. So yeah, just really creating that awareness for me in all areas.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and you know, over the last sort of few years, there have been quite a few BAME led female groups coming together to sort of raise the profile of cycling. And I know that British Cycling are aiming to work as well as they can with these groups. A Women of Colour Cycling Group. They started off in London and they're more spread around the country. Evolve, a cycling group based in London and Hertfordshire, and Spokes Out based in Derby as well. So there are some groups out there that are aiming to sort of generate a wider pool of female coaches. So hopefully that is something that's growing. But also they do need role models, and they do need to see people like you and Charlotte and Rhianna more often on the scene, talking about your stories and your your fantastic experiences. Let me just ask this last, just that question to Marie. Marie, is there an issue with growing more Black female cyclists in France, or do you have a conveyor belt coming up to you? Are there going to be more Marie-Divines coming through in France, or do you think there's an issue?
I was the only woman. The other Black people was a boy. So yeah, it's different.
Yeah. Okay. So
can I just quickly add in? I think what Marie does is really good, because I actually seen her on Instagram. It was when she won her world title at Junior World, and I started following her on Instagram. And her Instagram page is just brilliant, and then I looked at it and I thought, no, this is so cool. Like, and as another Black person, like, seeing that was just amazing. And the content that she puts out is like really relatable and inspirational. And you're like, oh, she can do it, I can do it, and it's like really good. So if we have more people like her, so I'm going to try and do it myself. And, like, all of us, I think we're pretty Instagram savvy. I'm definitely not, going to work on. But what Marie does, like, her content she puts out, she makes herself heard, and then that means that us younger generations on socials all the time. You see Marie do that. It's like so cool. She's like positive and everything. It's like cycling's good, cycling's this, dedicated to the training. I think it's really cool.
No, that's such a valid point. I think I don't know. I mean, when I saw that Marie won that World Championships and some of the photographs, and I was told by some friends at the VCL, I think it was Olivier Nielsen-Julian, said that you belted out the national anthem at the top of your voice when you won that World Championships, and everyone could hear you. But the very fact is that it shows young Black people, that young Black females, that it can be done, and so it's quite inspirational to see that. And I think when you do it with a smile on your face as well, that is so much more inspirational. That is why I was thinking about this. These kind of pictures of Celine Alvarado and Tennille Campbell, that can inspire young Black girls to think, wait a minute, they're really enjoying themselves in this sport. Maybe I could do it as well. And we just need to see more of that. More young Black girls really showing that they love the sport, and young but Asian girls showing that they really love the sport, and that will draw younger people in, I think. So some great answers there. Let me just spend 5 more minutes or so, okay, just talking about what's happening next, okay, for some of you. So what's coming up next? So we've got these events coming up next, haven't we? Right, we've got Birmingham 2022. We've got the World Championships in Glasgow in 2023 and Paris 2024. I'm not saying that Tokyo 2021 is not going to happen, but who knows? We need to look. I guess we need to look beyond that. But let me ask you a question of Danny about this first of all, 2022, and with you coming from Solihull, and this this international event being so close to your home. I mean, is there any way in which you'll be taking part in this event at Birmingham at the Commonwealth Games, Danny?
I'd absolutely love to. It'd be a dream goal of mine. It'd be my second Commonwealth Games. I competed at Glasgow in 2014 as a track sprinter, but since then I have now transferred over to endurance cycling. So yeah, I would absolutely love to be there competing for England. More specifically on the track in the endurance bunch races such as the scratch, the points, and maybe the team pursuit. But ultimately that means I need to get on the track, and with the current restrictions, it's been quite tricky for me to try and get access to training on a velodrome. So that hope's slowly fading away, because obviously I need to put myself up for selection. It's not going to happen from Zwift on my garage, unfortunately, as many hours as I'm doing, and how fantastic that's been as a training tool, and still keeping that sense of community going was the current pandemic. But yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely love to go, especially being from Solihull in Birmingham. Glasgow was a home games, but this is even more a home game, so it'd be fantastic.
No, I think it would be fantastic for you, but also to encourage younger females in cycling, that that there are homegrown champions who are still doing the sport and who are taking part in those games on our doorstep. So I do know that you've been speaking with David Viner as well, the president of Howzoin Cycling Club, about the possibility of the building of a velodrome in the West Midlands. How about that?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And I actually said to him on an email in the lead up to the Junior Worlds in 2013, my dad was driving me, because obviously I hadn't passed my driving test. I was only 17, and I hadn't passed my driving test. He was driving me to Manchester 3 times a week. That was whilst he was working and I was in full-time education at Solihull Sixth Form College. So that was that made for a hectic week. And having a local facility there would have obviously taken that pressure off. So obviously for myself, but in the future of the sport, I know how much that would be grateful and appreciated, especially as Birmingham is quite a major city. And I think there could be a lot of cyclists that would prosper from that. We could get some more into it, and if I could help that in any small way, it would be fantastic. So
that would be fantastic. But very much, it's very diverse in the West Midlands, and if that velodrome were given the go ahead, and it will put in an area of the West Midlands that would attract more ethnic diversity, then that's another way of growing the sport.
That was the word. I was looking for the word attract. That was it.
What about? Can I ask you a question, Marie, Divine, about Paris 2024? About Paris 2024, Marie. I mean, is this something that you have on your mind already?
Now I can imagine Paris 24, because it's my track. I am on the training all the day on this track. My home, it's like to 30 minutes. My friends, my parents, my family, all people, ils seront tous là. Et I hope to win. I hope to become Olympic champion, and I have to work hard. And now I just want to progresser. Progresser.
Progress. Yes.
Progress, yes. And I think it's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, no, step by step, of course. I think it could be a fantastic opportunity. Well, it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for you personally, but also to raise your profile as a magnificent, a champion athlete for people in France, but also as a role model for young Black cycling athletes around the world. And hopefully things will go well for you. And hopefully we'll be able to see you in in Glasgow in 2023 before that, where Scotland are hosting the World Cycling Championships as well. So now that's going to be a fantastic opportunity to see more of you, Marie. And I know that you, Rhianna, you're aiming to sort of raise your profile as well at future national championships and possibly to move on to future international sports events as well. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Get some times on the boards, basically. Nationals, yeah. Get them, smash them out, hopefully. Yeah, never say never. 2023 Olympics. Obviously, you gotta set your goals high, otherwise you'll never get them. So yeah, hopefully good things are coming.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. We've got to get more times on the board, haven't we? So let's see what happens in terms of how we go in that respect. And Charlotte, can I ask you about your valuable experience in racing, in coaching, and in leading discussions on diversity and inclusion? Which of these are the priorities for you now? Is it racing? Is it coaching? Or is it doing something else in the sport?
Well, my biggest priority is watching Marie win at 2024. No, I mean, yeah, all of the things that I can do to help our sport progress, to help more people be introduced to the sport. It's interesting. This discussion has opened my eyes in a way that a lot of others that I've participated in haven't, and made me think about a little bit more about the culture of cycling in the UK, and that is something we need to tackle. I think there's this weird hatred for cyclists and cycling, which I think feeds into why it's a sort of weirdly unknown sport and a weirdly kind of niche sport. So anything that can be done to get more people, not just to the highest level of cycling, but just involved more people commuting, more people watching, more people interested in any way. And and doing coaching at my local club, and hopefully maybe on a higher scale someday. So maybe when you guys are winning the Olympics, I can be there coaching, carrying your wheels around or something. But yeah, I think it's really important that we even whilst everyone is still racing at a high level, we take some time to volunteer at our local clubs and give back and do things like this as well, which are obviously really important and have engaged a large audience and hopefully will have some impact in the direction the sport goes. So anything I can do to help, really.
Well, absolutely. And this international chat has been called Young, Powerful Women. And, absolutely, you are young, powerful women. You've lived the sports. You've worked hard. You've had the hard days. You've had the good days. You've become champions. Your young voices for younger people coming up in the future. I think people listening now, the cycling industry would do well to get in contact with you guys immediately so that they can have you directing them in the sport for the future. It's been a fantastic discussion. It really has. I want to thank you very much for your time today, Danny, Charlotte, Rhianna, and Marie. It's been a privilege. It's been a pleasure being with you today. I wish you all the best for the rest of the year and the future. I hope to work with you again very soon. Thank you to all of the people who've come to listen to this discussion as well. I hope you've learned a lot. Hope any policymakers out there listening will take on board some of these fantastic comments made by these cyclists, and we'll get to action straight away, because these are real lived experiences that are true to their words and are going to help to inform policy and action in the future. So do take notes. Thank you everyone for joining us and watching. And just one big wave goodbye to everybody, really. We've gone over our time a little bit.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Nausicaa, thank you very much as well. Have a good rest of the evening, everybody, and take care. I'll see you at the next live talk. March
Thank you
1st.
very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Charlotte. Thanks, Rhianna. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.